Good evening. This meeting is now convened. The time is 5:30 p.m. Tammy, please let the record show that all board members are present. Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Stephen Hall, will introduce students from Weller Elementary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, good evening, board members. And tonight we are pleased to introduce 4 academic all-stars from Weller Elementary School. Students, will you please come forward as I mention your names? We have Nevaeh Ward, Jack Paul, Za Piang, and Tai Baleka. Would you please come forward? Awesome. You can stand over here on this side if you'd like. Everybody can see you. Great. Face the board. That's awesome. So Nevaeh and Jack are 4th graders, and Za and Tai are 5th graders, and they are considered academic all-stars because of their outstanding scores on the MAP test last year. Let's give them a round of applause. This evening, they are accompanied by their principal, Dr. Rebecca Donaldson, and their families. Please stand if you are here supporting these outstanding students. And now we invite the audience to please join us and stand if you are able as these students lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Take it away, Weller Academic All-Stars.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Outstanding. And let's go ahead and have Dr. Lathan and Dr. Frederick present these certificates to our Weller All-Stars. Hi.
Oh, I need some more. Is that yours or mine?
Yeah. Let's stand right over here. Right in front of there, yes, please. Yes, right over here. Stand in the front. Yes, thank you.
We visited together.
Yeah, I visited them about 4 times this year.
You visited Weller 4 times.
Yeah, she's very welcoming. Smile time.
Okay, let me get y'all right here. Thank you.
Great. Perfect, yes. And students, if you want to stand here for just a moment. Before they return to their seats, we'd like for Dr. Donaldson to join them here at the podium. March is School Board Appreciation Month, and we have enlisted the help of these Weller students to plan a special presentation for our board members. Dr. Donaldson, would you please share with school board members what your students have planned?
So we tried our very best to explain to 4th and 5th graders what a school board does.
Debatable these days.
And then they have written you a note. They're also, can you guys turn that way and face the board? So these are our students, some of our students who scored proficient or advanced on the MAP last year. And we have started a wall that is going to be a forever wall at Weller, we hope, and where we just honor those kids who are at grade level and are showing they are at grade level. And so we have a banner, and their picture is in the form of a baseball card. So you will get a picture in your thank you note of one of our academic all-stars. So this isn't all of them, but we just sort of divvied them out. So thank you, board, for the work you do and for serving our community and our schools. And they're going to work at introducing themselves to you and being confident now.
All right.
So much. Students, feel free to go ahead and present that to the Board of Education.
Thank you.
Are you coming to me?
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
My name is
Thank you very much.
I'm Scott Price. Thank you so much.
Can I take a picture of you?
Proud of you. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thomas Kate.
My name's Danielle. Very grateful for everything.
Thank you for being an excellent.
Thank you.
And board members, in honor of your dedicated service to Springfield Public Schools, our students and staff, we've also left a token of our appreciation at your place. We hope that the tote bags there will remind each of you how your individual stories contribute to our overall collective story of Springfield Public Schools. You'll also find at your place proclamation from the Governor of Missouri, as well as several certificates of appreciation from other organizations affiliated with public education. So thank you all. And finally, we will close with a short video highlighting your service during the 2022-23 school year.
Oh my God.
Now we'll continue with our honoring excellence for this evening. First up, we have the Kickapoo High School Chamber Choir. They were selected to perform at the Missouri Music Educators Association Conference in January. Choir, would you please come forward? Just to put this in perspective, this is one of the top honors a music ensemble in Missouri can earn, and the process is very competitive. With us tonight are representatives of the Chamber Choir, which is directed by Mr. Nathan Cornelius. Mr. Cornelius is joined by students Savannah Baker, Cole Dobbs, Lily Jackson, Ellie Kohlmeyer, Amy Lee, Olivia Morris, Reagan Reed, and Trinity Talmadge. Mr. Cornelius, would you please share a little bit about what this honor means to you, the students, and to Kickapoo?
Yeah, this is, so to be selected to sing at the Music Educators Conference is, it's kind of like winning the state championship for a choir. It is, there were, I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens of recordings sent in last summer. We found out July 15th that we were one of the top choirs. And we put together a program, and it was a half-an-hour performance. They performed once at this high school, once at Hammond's Hall the week before we went, and then once at Tantera at the convention for music educators. And it is the 8th time that Kickapoo High School, I believe, has been there. This is the 2nd time under my direction. And these guys were amazing and awesome. Comments are still rolling in. Actually, I got a card from somebody 2 days ago still expanding on how excellent their performance was and how amazing it was. They brought people to tears. They brought people to laughter. They had just a wonderful performance, and I'm very proud of them, and they're very proud of themselves.
We get a sample?
Not tonight. The choir is 36 people. They didn't let me bring them all. Yes, actually there are videos out of, I can put out a YouTube video from the performance at Hammond's Hall, where we performed with Missouri State University Chorale, who was also there. And yeah, there are videos. If you go to recordings, you can buy a video of their MMEA performance there.
Choir, we'd love to get a photo with you all, and Dr. Layton, Dr. Frederick. Down on this side here, I will change the photo. Dr. Powers,
Let's make a couple rows. It's going to be hard to get to all
Step
of there.
forward. Perfect.
There you go. Or staggered. You don't need to be a week. Right here.
Perfect. Thank you and congratulations to Kick It Forward. And we will conclude honoring excellence this evening by recognizing an outstanding principal, Dr. Rob Kroll. Dr. Kroll, would you please come forward? We have several here from Hillcrest as well. Let me brag on Dr. Kroll for a moment. We have the privilege of recognizing Dr. Kroll, who was recently honored by the Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals. Yesterday, he was named the 2023 Consummate Professional for the Southwest Region during the 50th Annual Spring Conference of the Association. Each year, recipients of the association name a Consummate Professional, and that award is given to a peer to celebrate their commitment and their dedication to being a principal and to the association itself. Dr. Kroll regularly demonstrates outstanding leadership and commitment to our students. As part of the recognition, Dr. Kroll will receive a $500 scholarship to present to a graduating senior from Hillcrest. So congratulations to him. We'd love for you to share a few things.
It's a great honor, and the best part is I get to bless one of our kiddos up at Hillcrest. So thank you very much for having me tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
What was that? That's your school? But I thought you went to Kickapoo.
And our recipient for our Your Story is Our Story recognition is not available to be with us tonight unexpectedly, so we will hold on that recognition and we will present their story to you in May. And that concludes Honoring Excellence. Thank you, board members.
Thank you. Most fun part of our evening. Thank you for all of you being here. Well, moving on to our approval of agenda. So the next section of our meeting is our agenda. Our next agenda item is the approval of the agenda. A recommended action is that the board approve the agenda as presented. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Have a motion from Danielle. Do you have a second? Thank you, Sharita. A second. Are there any comments or questions at this time? Okay. Hearing none, let's vote. So please vote on approval of agenda. Okay, our motion passes. So we'll move on to our 2.0, our public comments. We now come to this portion of our meeting where we hear from our public speakers. I want to have something that I read every meeting, so I'll continue by reading this evening. The Board of Education welcomes comments about the issues being discussed. The board uses this time in our meeting to listen to the public, but we will not comment or engage with the public during this meeting. The board allows for up to 10 speakers per public comment period. The board chair will call on individuals in the order in which they have signed up. Substitutions are not permitted. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes and will be timed by the board secretary. Those of you that are speaking, also there will be 2 timers on the 2 screens to help you track your time. Comments must be acceptable for a business and family-friendly environment. Inappropriate language, gestures, or personal attacks will not be tolerated. It is inappropriate to address the board about individual students or individual staff members by name in open meeting. If you have concerns about individuals, these concerns should be addressed through the appropriate supervisors either in the school or in the district office. If you have materials that you want to share with the board, please place them in a tray on the podium, and they will be distributed to board members following the meeting. So at this time, we will start out with our first public commenter, and that would be Laura Mullins.
Good evening. I often hear many of you speak of staying out of the weeds. I am here tonight to tell you about some of the weeds growing at SPS because we believe it is your responsibility to know. Just as we saw last spring, there is again a growing number of high-paying positions being added to the SPS budget. Since January, 10 new positions have been created that have no direct classroom impact, totaling over $1 million commitment per year. My question to you is, are you aware of these additions prior to approving the hires? If not, shouldn't you be? For an investment of this magnitude, there should be a commitment to the hiring of high-quality specialized staff. But instead, I'd like to point out that 9 of them only require a general bachelor's degree with minimal job experience. Some of these positions include running our IB program, running our information systems department, ensuring compliance with state and federal guidelines, coordinating our district reading supports, directing our HR department, and training our principals. While we appreciate the expectation for teachers to be highly qualified for their positions, we believe this should be a requirement for every position. However, when the district chooses to place teachers in positions that do not match their certifications, the teachers are publicly identified to the community, as happened to several teachers this year, and they are given the ultimatum to get certified within a few weeks' time, resign, or be terminated. Sadly, the accountability stops there. When looking at the building level administrators, SPS currently has 6 outside of their certification range and 1 administrator with no admin certificate at all. Additionally, these building leaders play dual roles. They're to be building administrators, but are also referred to as our instructional leaders. However, 22 of the current building administrators have no certification in the area they are supposed to be serving. That's over a third of our sites being led by someone with no educational training in or demonstration of adequate level of understanding of the instructional pedagogies occurring at their building. The most extreme example of this is one of our high school administrators who only holds a degree in early childhood education. How is this what's best for students and staff? Additionally, I would like to ask if you are aware of the newly added Fly with SPS Choice program prior to its inception. Just to remind you, the program will cost the district $9,000 per semester per child, an excessive comparison to the allotted cost per pupil we are afforded by our state budget. I have to ask, is this our priority when our district is struggling with the basics? Is this a responsible way to spend our students' money? And is this even going to address a need in our community? Springfield does not host an international airport like, say, Atlanta or Houston, so we will spend our money training students who will eventually leave our community, which does not seem to be good stewardship. The weeds, and these weeds and so many others, are what define SPS. All aspects of this district are your onus, and we are asking for you to step up and hold every member of the SPS team accountable, not just those you aren't affording your trust. Thank you.
I think the next speaker is Mads, M-A-D-S, is that correct? Mads Smith.
Hello, I'm a queer and trans college student here in Springfield, and I'm here to stand in support of LGBTQ students and all marginalized students in this community. Today I would like to talk about how ostracized and unheard I have felt throughout my academic career, and how I've been impacted by it. As a child in school, I would frequently get side eyes and backhanded comments about the way that I looked and dressed. I knew why it was happening, but no one stood up for me or helped me through it. So I thought, maybe this is what I deserve. A child thought those words. A child was made to think that they deserved to be ostracized for something that was out of their control, and no one was there for them. As a teenager, I felt alone, so alone. Every day I wondered if I was even put on this earth, if I was just going to be treated like I don't matter. As time went on, I felt the life get sucked out of me. I was empty, hollow. I was see-through like a ghost, like someone could walk right through me, and someone could walk right through me, and neither of us would feel it. And I now have to hold on to that grief, knowing that the me that I could have become is no longer alive. And that ghost is not something I can just let go of. It wasn't until I was an adult and out of the public school system that I felt safe enough to live as myself. Not that I really had a choice though, because my mental health was getting so bad that my choices were either come out and live as myself or kill myself because I'm not allowed to live as myself. So I came out. And that is when my life began. That is when my life became my life. I could look in the mirror and learn to love the person I see. I could finally live. I finally wanted to live. As an out adult in school, my mere existence in a space is something that bothers people. But now I have multiple professors, a dean of diversity, equity, and inclusion that I can go to, and they listen to me. They actually listen to me. In my school is rules put in place to protect me and my rights as a student. If younger me had the support that I have now, they would have actually wanted to continue living, and they would have excelled in school as I am now, instead of barely scraped by as I was. I want to acknowledge the privilege I have of being able to stand up here and say this to all of you. Though my safety is always at risk of being LGBTQ in this community, again I say my support system is what protects me, which is something that most students in this community don't have. And I can't help but wonder how my whiteness is also protecting me right now. Students in marginalized groups have directly and indirectly told me that they feel unheard and unsafe in your schools. Your constant dismissal of your LGBTQ students, as well as your black and brown students and students of other marginalized groups, is baffling. Your jobs as board members is to listen to your constituents. We're asking for the bare minimum. Please just listen to us. Please.
Sarah? Mike?
Evening. I am Sarah Smythe, and I'm here tonight representing Custodial Grounds Maintenance and Supply. I'm wanting to speak to you about going to the non-annualized pay. In a meeting that was held earlier this month about the non-annualized pay, we were told that the district could have Oracle build a program that would allow for annualized pay to stay. With all of the people that have already spoke out against the non-annualized pay, it would seem that the district would have the program built. This would allow for people to choose to stay on annualized or go to the non-annualized pay. We have been told that this is happening regardless of what is said. My hope is that this strikes a chord with someone on the board so they can ask the district admin to have the program built while there is still time. I think one of the hardest parts is that it feels like we work for an employer that doesn't care about our voice. We are used to being heard, or not being heard, so we've learned not to speak out or for ourselves. Morale in the district has been down for years, and I feel that this will only cause it to be worse. It would seem that you would want to do whatever it takes to keep employees around and happy. This will really only affect my group for 2 weeks since I am a 12-month employee. I believe that most 12-month employees have resigned themselves to the fact that this is happening regardless. There are so many more employees out there that this will affect on a grander scale, and those are the people that, as a board, that you need to be thinking about. As a board, you have been elected. As a board, you have been elected to be the checks and balance for the district. Every decision that the admin makes affects the employees, whether that is for the good or the bad. And you as the board have the right to ask questions and get answers to help with the decisions that are made in the best interest of the students and staff. I know that you cannot respond, but thank you for your time, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jenny Norton.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jenny Norton, and I'm proud to stand as part of the LGBTQ community today and call for a statement of support. As someone whose roots in this town that goes way back to all the way to the Civil War, my great-grandmother taught at Holland Elementary School, I believe I have a unique perspective. I'm also a graduate of Kickapoo High School, commencement speaker. Woohoo! So I believe I offer a unique perspective. As a teacher and teacher educator for almost 2 decades, I understand the importance of stakeholder input and soliciting information. And I've heard very little about this from administrators, teachers, and students who are entitled to equal representation in the decision-making process. I believe that this is due to an overreach, and I'd like to talk about that today. Despite conservative organizations buying school board seats, most Americans overwhelmingly oppose federal, state, and local overreach. Gallup poll data reveals that more than 70% of Americans actually support same-sex marriage. In fact, 87% of Americans support public service and government officials working across party lines in order to reach a common ground and create real solutions to problems. They're fed up. One solutions that conservatives have long since advocated for are individual liberty and limited government intervention through promoting ideological sovereignty and ideological freedom. When districts support ideological freedom, all students win. Research from School Psychology Quarterly shows allowing students to feel a sense of belonging in school is directly tied to higher educational outcomes, like higher GPAs, better attendance, improved standardized test scores, increased attendance, which I already said, increased extracurricular participation, and decrease in discipline issues. These are all things that I hear people talking about who are running for the school board. These are things that you're talking about, that you care about, and yet there's a solution within your reach, but we are having a hard time getting there. One solution also is that when we support students with their identity, we see an increase in resiliency, skill sets for collaboration, and more effective problem-solving models. These are things that all of us benefit from. Additionally, data from the Social Science Quarterly has shown that exposure to diversity and different perspectives actually leads to positive outcomes for all students. Students who attend more diverse schools have significantly higher competencies when it comes to college and career readiness. We know this for a fact. At a time when businesses are struggling to find qualified employees, we need to be retaining students from diverse backgrounds to stay in our community rather than pushing them and allowing them to leave for places where they feel more safe and welcoming. We need their voices here, and they're not staying, and they're not working for your businesses. The last thing that I want to say is I want to thank the board for the difficult decision last month to remove one of the board members from their executive council decision. I know this wasn't easy. However, in a time when we can all agree that we need to be focusing on student success and academic achievement, we absolutely need to be sure we're supporting the pipeline for private industry through student success. Thank you so much.
Kat Hustler.
Hello. When I came for the first time to speak about the removal of pride flags, I thought surely this group of adults who swore an oath to uphold the law and to protect our students would care deeply about how this would impact them. Considering the higher rates of suicide for LGBT plus youth and that Missouri education law requires schools to identify students at risk, they would be able to correlate the need for students to identify that one adult in their building who would help reduce that risk by 40%. Yet meeting after meeting, I have watched community members ask for support for our students with no response. Instead, I have heard board members make appearances on radio shows sharing transphobic views and mocking the need for safe spaces. At the last meeting, we heard from a student who attended the Youth Empowerment Summit, and she gave a very powerful speech about how the actions of one board member impacted her. Then, we watched 3 board members invalidate her experience and ignore the written statements from other students who were there. Even more concerning, there was no apology from this board member about how she made those students feel. Only deflection and a claim of victimhood for being held accountable, which is concerning to see in a board member as much as their inability to understand how to behave professionally. My grandfather served our country during World War II on the Pacific Front. And as a child, he taught me to love this country and to love our education system. He would wake me every morning at sunrise to raise the flag, and at sunset, we would lower the flag, fold it the correct way, put it in its place of honor on top of the mantle, and have dinner every night. Same process. By the age of 6, I had the flag code memorized backwards and forwards. So imagine my surprise to see a board member who used their closing comments to make a not-so-subtle dig at a fellow board member, do so wearing a flag shirt, which is a direct violation of Section 8D of the Flag Code. In addition to this, he used a speech from comedian Red Skelton to prove his point, a speech that Red Skelton claims is from one of his teachers as a child, a speech that includes the words, "One nation under God." However, This is impossible because Red Skelton was born in 1913. He dropped out of school in 1926, and the words "one nation under God" was not added to the Pledge of Allegiance until 1954. You're so mad last time about lies. So aren't you mad that Red Skelton lied to you? He lied to the whole country, not just a room of 20 kids. Are you mad that he lied, or rhetorical devices used in speeches only okay when they prove your point? Missouri law protects the freedom of students by stating that no student shall be required to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and that freedom should be extended to adults in this room as well. I want to thank the board for holding its members accountable for their actions and hope we continue to do so when protocols and norms are ignored. That first meeting I came alone, but tonight I have 250 new friends, and I guess I thank you for that. And also, Denise, I know my time is up, but thank you for your time as a board member. We really do appreciate you.
Joy Neal.
I'm a 20-year-old college student at Drury University and a proud trans woman. I'm here today to support the LGBTQ+ community and encourage the school board to release a statement of support for LGBTQ+ students. First off, I think we can all agree that children can often be cruel. I assume that this isn't something I have to prove to you. But what that means to me is that children are very good at learning and that they live in an imperfect world. Even without being explicitly told, children soak up the rules of what is normal and what is weird. When a student hears a joke about a person who talks funny or a person who dresses weird, this isn't just a joke, it's also an important lesson. Children quickly become experts on what it means to fit in and what should be done to those who don't. I didn't realize that I was trans until the age of 18, but growing up I did know I was different. I distinctly remember being 15 and wanting to do girly things as innocent and harmless as wearing a dress to school. I remember then consciously deciding not to, because of how my fellow students would react and treat me for it. Every now and then I would wear a dress on Halloween or Spirit Week when we were encouraged not to dress as ourselves. I always said it was a joke, and my fellow students loved to joke along with me, letting me know how freakish I looked and how scary and wrong the whole affair was. One time even the principal joined in on the fun. For me, those jokes weren't just jokes, they were important lessons. And so I intentionally locked away these things about myself, and it significantly impacted my success as a student. I was not motivated to engage with the schoolwork or make something of myself. I had trouble focusing in class, being distracted by the persona I was presenting, how fake it felt, how little I liked it, and if I was doing enough to satisfy my peers. When asked what career I wanted to pursue after high school, I would always answer, It was not that I didn't have any interests, but I had learned that passions, preferences, and aspirations were not things that were actually welcome from me. I could not imagine a future for myself that would have been attractive and fulfilling while also staying within the bounds that had been drawn for me. Since graduating, I've realized who I am and what I want from life. In college, I was able to meet other trans people and openly discuss their experiences, and I had the space to explore the things that had thus far been choked. As a trans person in today's modern climate, I am often scared, and I am often angry. But the last 2 years have nonetheless been the best of my life. I am now a self-motivated student that wants to succeed. A little bit of support from a few professors helps push me far beyond my normal capabilities. When a student has their needs met, they excel, plain and simple. When teachers, administrators, and members of school boards remain silent on this issue, they leave the job of deciding who gets to succeed and who doesn't in the hands of the students. A message of support for students that don't fit will directly lead to students that are more engaged and will set up all students in Springfield Public Schools to better pursue greatness. Thank you.
Carl Hurd.
Let me begin by congratulating Dr. Frederick for serving 12 years on this school board. You'll get many accolades. From math to history. I want to present a brief history of what R12 has done to improve academic process. Well, here goes. When I was in the 2nd grade, Missouri had an 8-month school. Then they added 9 months, then a half-day kindergarten, then a full-day kindergarten, then pre-K, and then they made middle schools, and then they air-conditioned the buildings, and they did all these things to improve education. So you ask yourself the question, what difference has it made? By your own admission, R12 is a failing district academically. That's not my words. So that's point number 1.
My words either.
Number 2, there is an Achilles heel on the school bond. That Achilles heel is maintenance. When I was on the task force, we toured Pipkin. The elevator takes 3 minutes to go 1 floor, and the speakers don't work, and the basement floods. When we toured Pipkin, elevators get stuck between floors, so it takes an hour to rescue you. Central doesn't have an elevator that's needed. And then Pershing, it has a mold problem, and they did some dehumidifiers and tried to solve it. So what's the bottom line? Why would taxpayers trust the school with $220 million when they're not maintaining properly the buildings that you already have? Now, that may seem kind of harsh, but think about it. The new Hillcrest, I just had a report today that there's some handles broken off the restroom doors and tiles missing. Check it out. My last point is I believe in solutions. And one of the solutions that you all have talked about is discipline. Without discipline, there's not much learning. One of you school board members, about a year ago, I spoke and suggested a task force. You said you liked the idea. I think it's time to get it done. And I'd like to finish by saying I watched a teacher lose a class, and he had a nervous breakdown because he didn't have the support that he needed from the principals. That's sad. Education is not about pay altogether. It's about, having support and enjoying what you do. I enjoyed 30 years. Thank you.
Kyler Sherman Wilkins.
Hello, good evening. My name is Kyler. I'm a professor of sociology at Missouri State, and I'm here representing NAACP, the GLOW Center, and also just a firm advocate, steadfast advocate of public schools, and a strong believer that every child matters and every child counts. I'm here today to echo a couple of other statements regarding a statement of support for our queer youth and teachers. This is something that has been requested for months now. Just in case there is a need for a reminder of what that text is, I brought the language of the draft statement of support here. The time was now, frankly, when it was first called for, but the stakes are very high now. If you're paying attention to what's going on at the state level, Missouri is currently working 34 bills that specifically target the LGBTQ population. 2 of those bills have passed through committee, and one of these bills in particular bans gender-affirming care for youth, directly undermining parental authority, and it also goes against the recommendations of the American Academy of Pediatrics. We know that this care saves lives, and yet conservative legislators have decided that they want to ban this. Our kids do not attend schools in a vacuum. They are aware of what's happening at the state level. They are aware of these attacks. As was recounted by previous individuals, alums of SPS, they've noted how important support and a statement would have been as they experienced SPS schools. They're also aware of some of the harmful words and rhetoric that have come from a few members of this very board, including those who choose to go on talk radio and spout conservative ideologies. Now, to all of that, this is our opportunity to do something different. Now, I looked over the statement. I know it because I wrote it, and it doesn't call on you to endorse a particular sexual orientation or a gender identity. It doesn't call on you to suspend your religious beliefs. It merely calls for you to say that you stand with every single student and that you're committed to them being safe. The time is now. And I will end with a story. I was at the Glow Center and a parent come, soon to be SPS parent, with their bisexual daughter. And she asked me the question, my concern is, will my kid be safe in schools? And it broke my heart. And I said, you know what? I know that there are steadfast allies on the school board. I know that the administration has allies. And I know that there are queer teachers and students, and your kid will feel supported. But it would have been so much better if I could say definitively, the school has your back. And a statement of support for our queer youth would have allowed me to say just that. And I'll end with this. It is still the case, my understanding, that the school board member who disrupted the Youth Empowerment Summit has not offered a formal apology. Better late than never, right? It's still time to do that. Thank you.
Bridget Dirks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I am here one more time to speak to you about Proposition S. As you know, David Hall and I worked hard and chaired a task force that was a wonderful experience that came to great conclusions that our community needs are not yet met with regard to our school facilities. And I'm not going to go over all the details of that again. You all have heard it many times. It has been beautifully communicated by the Friends of SPS, which is a bipartisan effort that involves a number of individuals that have worked really, really hard. So we're very, very proud of the work of SPS. We are just so excited to be able to move forward on this bond issue in 1 week. You know, our schools are our second homes. You know, my son is at Wilder. Tonight, my son is at Skateland, actually, with Wilder students, having a Wilder skate night, which I'm a little sad to miss, but also I don't know how to skate, to be frank. So we're, you know, Wilder is our second home. It is the place that matters to us. And what we really must do is ensure that our children feel safe and well supported in those spaces. And one of the many ways we can do that is ensure that the facilities in which they are learning are high quality and functioning well for current modern students. So I don't have a ton to say other than that. We are very much excited to vote yes on Proposition S next Tuesday, and we would encourage the community to do so. Voter turnout is not so great in April elections, and so we would just encourage everyone to keep that in mind and to encourage your friends and neighbors to go out and vote to support this level tax bond issue, which is really, really important for the long-term sustainability of the school system. Thank you, guys.
Bridget. Okay. And last but not least, David Hall.
Thank you for letting me be here today. I want to say, while I served as a co-chair with Bridget on the task force, I'm really here today. I want to speak to you as an individual, as just a member of our community. First of all, I want to say personally thank you for allowing me to serve on the task force. It was a rewarding and certainly a very important work. I find great reward in that, in helping our community. So I want to say thanks for letting us do that again, because I certainly personally appreciated that. I also want to say, as I commend the work that the district has done, as well as for completing the projects on phase 1, as well as a commitment of the current board that we have for the oversight of phase 2 projects. We know that was an important part of this as we went through, and I appreciate that. So we continue to see tragic events that are occurring across the nation since we've completed our work on the task force. It reinforces the need to have safe schools in order to provide that safe learning environment for our students from which they can learn. I appreciate your leadership in this area, because that certainly is one of the major points within the bond issue. So I will say, as a previous speaker spoke about the need for maintenance, I don't disagree with that, but I think that's a separate discussion aside from the importance of 100-year-old buildings that need to be replaced. All of that to say is, I want to say and commend and thank each of you for working on the school board. I know it is a thankless position, and we appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that you did in supporting the task force and for giving the community an opportunity to vote on that on April 4th and being able to give a decision on where we move forward with SPS and our facilities. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our public comments. So we will move on to our 3.01, approval of minutes. So moving on to our consent agenda items. We have had time to review the consent agenda items over the last few weeks and few days. So our recommended action is that the board approve consent agenda items 3.01 through 5.01. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Sharita. I have a motion from Sharita. Do I have a second? Thank you, Scott. The second. So at this time, please vote. Okay, motion carries. And at this time, we will move on to our treasurer's report. Dr. John Mulford, will you please? There he is.
Ma'am, here I am.
Appeared.
Good evening, board, and happy Board Appreciation Month, and thank you for your service. In your board packet, you will see the treasurer's report. Not much has changed since last month. We continue to remain on track with revenues and expenditures as predicted. Our end of year fund balance remains pretty much flat. There are two small, very small grants that are added to the budget amendment. One of those, the Secondary Education Feminine Hygiene Grant, is new this year, was passed by legislators last year, made available to all schools. So this is something our nurses are able to utilize to support our students who have those needs. And then the Active Classroom is a recurring grant that the foundation supports every year. So those are kind of the big pieces. As we look ahead to next year, it's probably as certain as we've been on funding in a long, long time. And so for that, we're very grateful. But it's looking like the formula transportation will continue to be fully funded. There are some other pieces in the works that may be funded, depending on how it goes, which could be a benefit. Early childhood, Sharita, you appreciate that as one of those. One of the governor's recommendations is expanding early childhood funding through the foundation formula. So we'll see how that all plays out. But any questions about the treasurer's report?
Okay. Not hearing any, so at this time, do the recommended motions. The board approves the treasurer's report as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Sharita. Do I have a second? Second. Danielle? Second. Are there any comments or questions from the board at this time? So, hearing none, we're ready to take a vote. How do I get off of that? Very good. Okay, motion carries. Moving on to 7.01 information items, which there are no information items this evening. So moving on to 8.01 board policy. There are multiple policies on the agenda for our approval. We've had time to review the policies and ask any questions that we may have. So as a reminder, these policies are brought forward by MSBA, that's Missouri School Board Association, with recommended adjustments based on legislation and change in statute. Dr. Mulford, you may want to speak to that. But the recommended motion is the board adopt all policies as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Sharita, do I have a second?
A second.
Scott? And at this time, are there any comments or questions about the policies? Okay, hearing none, let's vote.
Kelly, I do want to point out, policy AD didn't take 8 years to amend this time. The mission.
You're welcome.
So we made sure we got that done.
I didn't realize which one that was. Yeah, we're on top of it. Thank you.
Motion carries. Moving on. 9.01, new business, property, automobile, and liability insurance. Dr. Mulford.
This is that time of year where we renew our insurance, and we have representatives with us from Allis, Akers, and Arney right over here. And they've been a long-time partner with the districts and each year they look at the market, they negotiate with current providers, and if need be, they take it out to market to get the best rates that we can get. Unfortunately, we're seeing a pretty good spike this year, which I don't think anybody is shocked about, but we're seeing a 29% increase in our property coverage, and a lot of that, the bulk of that is due to increased property values, so it costs more to replace property. We also have some newer facilities that we've added. Liability premium has went up at 17%, and the bulk of that is tied to current claims, current litigation. And so not only do we have the cost of litigation, but that often forces our premium up. So we're seeing about a $111,000 increase there. And then there's also a 10% increase in cyber crime. And, you know, that's a field, if we can call it that, that is just blooming and developing constantly, and there's constantly new battles to fight. We are making the recommendation that we approve the renewal with the rates presented. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them. If I cannot answer them, I'll call on Richard over here to help me out.
Okay, no questions? He's getting off easy. Okay. The recommended action is that the board approve the property, automobile, and liability insurance renewal as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
Second.
Danielle? So at this time, we're ready to vote unless we know no questions. I guess no comments. So let's vote. Thank you. Motion carries. We shall move on. 9.02, Dr. Travis Shaw is at the podium to review this agenda item for us. Hi, Dr. Shaw.
Hello, good evening. As our common practice for all items that exceed $500,000, they come to the board as separate agenda items, and so this is one of those, and it's for the replacement of the synthetic turf at Parkview High School football field, as well as the installation of synthetic turf at the Kickapoo baseball field. So on February 10th and the 17th, we did let bids out and received 4 bids on March 15th for the replacement of these particular fields. Parkview High School football field will be the 4th one that we have done in as many years. Those are all determined priority based on what's called a GMAX test. And we did Glendale first 3 summers ago, we did Hillcrest, then Kickapoo last summer, and Parkview will finish those out. Goalposts will also be replaced as part of this project. The combined cost for that particular part is $611,737. The conversion of the infield at Kickapoo High School baseball field from natural grass to synthetic turf includes the demolition of the entire infield of that particular field, all of the earthwork, drainage, reinforced concrete, skirting, and new synthetic turf installed after all that work is done. The renovation of the bullpens will also take place to include that synthetic turf. The combined cost for this portion is $857,331.50. The combined project for your consideration is $1,469,068.50. As a reminder, this is what we call an early bid project that is being funded out of FY24 capital. And so we bring projects like this to you now so that we can seek your approval and then begin to procure all the materials, and that way work can start this summer and be finished before fall season begins. The contractor that's being recommended is Hellas Construction. They did do our last football replacement at Kickapoo, so they're a great contractor to work with. So with that, I will stop and answer any questions that you may have. Josh Scott, our Director of Athletics and Activities, is also here in case there are questions that I may not be able to answer regarding these fields.
Thank you. Let me read the recommended action is that the board approves the, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Recommended action is the board approve the construction as presented on the synthetic turf replacement installation. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Scott, is a motion? And do I have a second?
Second.
Kelly. So at this time, do we have questions? Other questions or comments? Okay, ready to vote. Scott, did you vote?
I did.
You did? Yes. Okay, motion carries. 7-0? Yes. Okay. Very good. Moving on, 9.03, new business. 2023-2024 budget development, introduction, and overview. Thank you. We have Dr. John Mulford is back, and Ms. Kara Stasel will come to the podium. They're there to provide the board an update on our 2023-2024 budget development process. I remember hearing those years ago thinking, that will never get here, but here it is.
This is your last one.
It is.
Congratulations, yeah. So you guys kind of know how this goes, so between now and June, we'll have monthly budget development sessions and information. Kara's the brains behind the operation, so she'll do most of the speaking, and I'll just provide some color commentary along the way when it's appropriate. So I'll let her start us.
Awesome. So good evening. Tonight's presentation just focuses on that budget introduction and high-level review of funds, and then a bit of detail on what types of expenditures are supported through those funds. So provided for you again is this budget calendar as we kind of walk through each month leading up to June. We are right in the middle of the process with lots of work and engagement left to be done as we head to June 27th. And just as a reminder, the board must adopt a budget for the upcoming year by July 1st. Each year, administration provides a budget recommendation that aligns to board policy, which aligns to Missouri statute. These 5 components are required as a part of the budget. So we have a budget message, estimated revenues, proposed expenditures, the debt schedule for the school districts, and then a general budget summary. So budget development begins and ends with the strategic plan in mind. These 4 priorities and the objectives and goals within them help drive the budget requests and needs. And each one of the budget requests that comes to the board will align to the strategic plan. This is a snapshot of the front page of the Annual Secretary of the Board Report, or the ASBR. The ASBR is submitted annually to the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and kind of acts as that final expenditure report for the year that's then audited by our financial auditors. At the end of last year, our operating fund balance was 23.21%. And just to keep in mind as we go through the fund overview, the funds are summarized into 4 different funds reported to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, and then we also have the 2 fiduciary funds. And this is our current year general budget summary that probably looks familiar as it comes to you each month as a part of the Treasurer's Report. Currently, we are projecting to end the year at 25.2%. 25.20%. The funds highlighted in blue, the General and Teachers Fund, make up what we call the operating fund, and that operating fund balance is calculated off of those funds. So this pie chart represents the revenue budget for the current year, the revised budget. These are the operating funds by source. And as you can see, the local and state revenue makes up 89% of the total budget. To more accurately reflect a normal year, we did not include the ESSER amount of $35 million in this, just so you can see what the federal funding generally looks like.
I want to point out while we're on this slide, I think I pointed this out last year, but our district receives almost 2/3 of our funding from local revenues, so property tax, personal property tax. So we are reliant upon accurate assessments and people paying their tax bill locally, because we don't get a whole lot from those other sources. So that's extremely important. And also that the higher we are local revenues, the more we want to keep a tight eye on that fund balance, because we get the bulk of our revenue in January, February.
So this slide provides a high-level review of the current funds that we operate within. So the teacher and general funds, also known as the operating funds, kind of take care of our staff, with the bulk of the expenses being salary and benefits. Purchase services and supplies also come out of these funds. So items such as contracts for services, fuel, paper, food for students, utilities, and substitute services are some examples. Debt service includes principal and interest payments for taxpayer-approved debt. Capital projects includes all facility acquisition and constructions, including bond and lease purchase payments and other equipment items. The Health Benefit Trust Fund is a self-funded fiduciary insurance fund and includes medical and dental benefits, prescription benefits, and wellness programming. And the GoCaps Fund is managed by the district as the fiscal agent and includes salary and benefits for GoCaps teachers, the contract with the Chamber of Commerce for program management, and supplies. This pie chart represents all funds, the expenditure budget for all funds, with the teacher fund being the largest, followed by the general fund.
And you guys remember, we call it a teacher's fund. It's really anyone who is certified is paid out of that fund.
Next, we see the same data excluding bond and debt. So this chart just kind of provides a representation of the areas where most of the day-to-day operations take place and where the adjustments can be made. Drilling down a little bit further, we have the expenditure budget operating funds by object. So you can see that salary and benefits total 81% of the operating budget. Typically, a good rule of thumb is for that to stay around 80%. We have crept over that a little bit with the influx of ESSER funds, and the majority of those ESSER funds are used to support either direct classroom instruction positions or support to classroom positions. And drilling down even further into purchase services, you can see kind of some categories or areas of our purchase services as broken down the way DESE wants to see these. And the total purchase services by object totals 7.7% of our total operating budget. So kind of a very small amount when you look at the grand total. So things like our substitute services, tuition to other districts, travel, just contracts for services, any kind of rentals or anything that we do, all those services come out of the purchase service categories.
That's important to note, because sometimes as you're looking through the KCOB, or maybe you talk to people in the community, and you may hear things like, well, if you just would cut that or don't spend money on that, you know, you could do these other things. But only just under 8% of our budget is really flexible. And when you look at a lot of those things, those are a lot of we can't give up. So just kind of keep that in mind. And obviously we want to be good stewards. We want to manage those funds and with a critical eye. I'm not saying that we don't, but you know, cutting high school sports is not going to create a windfall of money, okay? And so those are things that if you're not in the work every day, you don't always see.
So same thing with supplies. These are the supplies categories kind of broken down by object code. So you know, student nutrition, our utilities, our gas, library books, paper goods, that kind of stuff would come out of supplies. And the total for supplies is 11% of the operating budget. All right, this is kind of a first glance, kind of a preview of what's to come for the preliminary revenue projection. So local tax on assessed value next year is a reassessment year, and so this assumes that we capture the total 5% growth that we school districts are allowed to capture. So we're hoping our assessed value grows by that 5% so we can capture it all. Basic formula, classroom trust, I think Dr. Mulford mentioned earlier, but we've been given another year to use our FY20 average daily attendance. DESE has been very clear that this will be the last year that happens. So next year we do anticipate a change in that. Just depends on where that ADA comes in next year. And then Proposition C, that is not subject to the pandemic provision for next year. So it will use current year, this year FY23's WADA. So Proposition C always uses the prior year. So in FY24, we will have to use FY23's WADA. The reason it's not going down as much as one may think is because the amount per WADA was increased dramatically. So while $600,000 is kind of what we're estimating right now, there is a supplemental, I think, appropriation, right, that could increase that dollar amount even more. So we may see a shift in that by the end of the year.
Everybody know what WADA means?
Weighted average daily attendance?
Yes. Okay, all right, just making sure.
It's like a trivia. And then we just increased our interest income a little bit because for the last couple of years, a year and a half or so, we've not seen a lot of growth in that area and rates are starting to recover. So we're just projecting a little bit of recovery there.
So right now we're projecting $7 million in new revenue for next year. That's early predictions. We feel like it's pretty solid. Like we don't expect it to go down. Depending on what is passed during the legislative session, it could go up. So we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, the final slide for tonight is just an overview of the presentation schedule. So we will pick back up on April 11th with a lot of detail around debt service, bond, capital, health benefit trust, and GoCaps that evening. It'll be a jam-packed presentation, but I'll make it as efficient as I can. And that is all I have. Questions?
I have a question. Excuse me. The transportation formula, so FY23 we had full funding for transportation formula for the first time in a long time. Are we projecting also for FY24?
Yes.
That was the governor's recommendation, and it appears the House has left it in as well in their first iteration of the budget.
Okay, thank you.
You're letting him off really easy. Way and me too.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, moving on, 10.01, unfinished business. No unfinished business items. That will move us on to 11.01, change orders and agreements. Dr. Shaw.
Good evening again. Standard report in front of you. Many small items from Jarrett that you'll see on this list. A few FF&E pieces for Field and York as well. Total ask this evening for approval is $42,569.41. Can I answer any questions for you at this time?
The recommended action is that the board approves the change orders and agreements as presented. I have a motion. Scott?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Danielle? I'm sorry. I thought I...
It's okay, I will second.
Are you... Okay, so Scott, the motion, a second from Danielle. Are we ready to vote? Motion carries. Moving on, 12.01, Superintendent's Update.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. The application window for Fly SBS closed yesterday, and we're very pleased with the level of student interest. We received 73 applications from sophomores at every high school for 10 available seats. Almost 1/3 of the applicants are female, 23 students. From this point, there will be a lottery drawing to select candidates who will participate in an interview and must pass the FAA medical examination. We will announce the students that will be participating on May the 17th. I'd like to show you a promotional video produced by for Fly SBS at this time. And also, this is a partnership with OTC and Premier Flight Center, but it will also expose students to various careers in aviation, in addition to the new facility that OTC is building actually out at the airport.
We're taking learning to new heights. Thanks to a new partnership, we're offering our high school students the opportunity to soar. Through OTC's aviation programs, students can explore high-demand aviation careers while earning their private pilot's license and dual credit. Plus, it's all free. The opportunity is open to SPS juniors who are selected through a lottery application process. Those who meet the requirements for the 2-year program will spend part of their day at school engaged in studying aviation at OTC and Premier Flight Center. Upon completion, Fly SPS students will be on course to pursue other aviation-related goals. Come fly with SPS. Come fly with SPS and chart your course to success.
Yes, in my last. We will encourage our students. And thank you to our parents that came out to SPS University on last week to learn more about the program. Enrollment for Explorer is also underway. We currently have 4,574 students enrolled. Our goal this year, or my goal, is 10,000 students to participate in summer enrichment opportunities. So please encourage your children to register. We celebrated the opening of York Elementary School with a ribbon cutting ceremony Monday afternoon. It was very well attended and participants were excited to tour the school. Our last project, final project of the 2019 bond, ribbon cutting will be for Jarrett Middle School on Monday at 4:30 p.m. Encouraging you to come out. I want to thank all of the voters for supporting the bond in 2019. All projects were completed on time and as promised. Tomorrow we're launching another exciting program that I hope to expand in the future. It's called Principal for a Day. We have invited 12 business members and community leaders to shadow some of our principals. They have been assigned to a specific school where they will shadow the principal, and then we will conclude the day with a debrief to see what the lessons were that they learned and how they'll further be able to partner with those individual buildings and also SPS. Just a reminder, Tuesday, April 4th is Election Day. SPS does have Proposition S on the ballot. Thank you so much.
Excellent. I like the aspect of Fly SPS that it's careers.
Yes.
In all aspects of aviation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Great. Hey, board comments. At this time, anyone on the board have a comment that you would like to share?
I do.
Okay, Scott.
Okay, just to update the board and the public that we had a meeting with legislators recently. It was great. We spent the day with Jason Stamkos, who's our lobbyist. He's so well connected, and more importantly, he's very well respected. Representatives meet with us because of him, and we got to see his work in action. That was great. And you can tell Dr. Lathan is so well respected in Jefferson City as well. I really appreciate that. We started out the day meeting with the Speaker of the House, Dean Blocker. Great discussion with him about Springfield and our needs. We got to meet with Senator Cindy O'Loughlin, Senate Majority Floor Leader. Oh, it was a great discussion. This is after they were in a filibuster till 7:30, 8 o'clock a.m. That morning. She went home and got a couple hours of sleep, came back, and we got to meet with her. It was great. Got to meet with Stephanie Hine and in her office, crammed in her little closet of an office, and she was great to talk to. And Brad Pollitt, great discussion with him. He's the House Education Chair. I got to talk to him about the Parents' Rights Bill. and get his thoughts on that. Of course, Senator Lincoln Huff, he's a Senate Appropriations Chair, and he represents Springfield. We got to talk to him and present our vision, a district vision on Hillcrest and the Ag Academy Choice Program and the Hillcrest Farm Request as well. And that was very well received by him as well. So, talking about the farm behind Hillcrest High School. Of course, got to meet with Alex Riley for a little bit. Yes, and Betsy Fogel pulled her off the floor. Everybody was so kind, considerate, and
Melanie Stinnett.
Melanie Stinnett, right, as well. Thank you.
Betsy Fogel.
Yeah.
It was a jam-packed day.
It was
but it was fun.
Yeah.
And Scott, I want to second what you said. It was really amazing to see you advocating for our district and connecting with people on both sides of the aisle. And it's very clear that they respect you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Anything else?
Well, that's all I have.
And we appreciate Scott and Danielle spending a day, early morning, day, night, going to Jefferson City on our behalf. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, and we had a great time yesterday at the York ribbon cutting. The entire front lawn of York was filled with families and their children and staff. We had a great conversation with many of the people in the neighborhood that shared with us how they watched the old building over time and then had the opportunity to watch that demolished, and then the new building, as it came up, as it was built, and how much pride they had in that new building, and how proud they are of that, and their children are now there, and they were certainly wanting to make sure that their children get to go on to New Pipkin. I can say that. And so there were lots of excitement there yesterday. So, and I know most of you got a chance to be there as well to tour that building. So, a lot of exciting things. So, anything else? Okay, moving on to our 14.02 upcoming meetings. April the 11th is our next board meeting, and that is our reorg meeting and study session. Then April 25th is our next regular meeting. So those are the two things coming up in April. So 15.01 is our plus delta. So this is our opportunity to record any plus delta comments that you might have, to write them on a sticky note, give those to Tammy. So at this time, the board does need to meet in executive session. Our recommended action is that the board meet in executive session to discuss real estate, legal, and personnel matters as provided in section 610.021, 1, 2, 3, and 13 RSMO. Do I have a motion to meet in exec session? So moved. Thank you, Sharita. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Scott. I thought maybe no one wanted to leave there for a minute.
I was giving our fellow board members an opportunity to motion or second this evening.
Yeah. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, let's vote. It's fine. Good. All get to vote.
Steve, you get one of these.
He waved at me. He told me when to mark.
Okay. Motion carries. This meeting is officially adjourned at 6:50.